Imagine getting paid just for sharing your thoughts on products and services you use every day. With Survey Junkie, it's that simple. Click on the link in the video description to discover how you can start earning today by taking surveys.
Emotional BBC Radio 4 listeners have paid tribute to Dr. Michael Mosley after his last ever interview was broadcast following his death on the Greek island of Symi. Dr. Mosley, who influenced public health in the UK through his life-changing tips, was tragically found dead by a fence at the resort of Agia Marina on Sunday morning, just 260 feet from a beach bar and safety. At 11 a.m., BBC Radio 4 aired a special program, There's Only One Michael Mosley, which contained the last interview the TV doctor conducted before his death. The recording was introduced by TV doctor and presenter Chris Van Tulken, who Mosley worked with as part of Trust Me, I'm a Doctor. In a heartbreaking tribute, he said, I didn't know was that it would be the last time I ever saw him. Dr. Mosley recorded a special edition of Just One Thing, in which he regularly revealed tips to help improve your health, at the Hay Festival on May 25 with Professor Paul Bloom. His wife, Dr. Claire Bailey Mosley, also a doctor, author and health columnist, was in the audience. During the interview, there were several moments where Dr. Mosley had the audience in stitches with his witty jokes, infectious laugh and self-deprecating nature. Dr. Mosley started the interview by telling the guest speaker, we have a super enthusiastic audience, which I think is probably one of the good things about life, isn't it? This is something I am really looking forward to because I have been obsessed with the question of how to live a good life for a long time. I come from a long line of missionaries on my mother's side and a long line of bankers on my father's side, so I'm kind of torn in two different directions, and to some extent that has dictated the course of my life. He had the audience in laughter when he talked about his love-hate relationship with cold showers. He said, what I typically do is go into the warm shower, I wash myself and then I hit the cold. I cannot say it is a moment of bliss, normally followed by a lot of screaming. Ah. And actually, what I do is sing very loudly, which my wife really hates, but it gets me through it. And afterwards I feel good about it. When the professor joked, maybe it signals to your wife how tough you are, Dr. Mosley replied, yay. Are you listening, Claire? Later on, the professor says to him, when I go to sleep I often put on a podcast, not an interesting one. Dr. Mosley jokes, one of mine then? The professor replies, never. A sort of dull, male, droning voice. And the audience erupts into laughter as Dr. Mosley says, you're talking about me again. Reacting to the interview, one social media user said, Michael at his best, full of warmth, insight and enjoying his time with the Hay Festival audience. A second wrote, oh my gosh, Michael Mosley's last episode of Just One Thing recorded just a few weeks ago is absolutely heartrending. Listening to it just now. It's hilarious as usual and so sad knowing we now don't have his wonderful humor and insights. Another posted, oh, man, listening to Michael Mosley, what a great presenter. A fourth said, I loved Michael Mosley and I don't object to his interview being played, but I had to switch off as it is still too raw to listen to. Just one more fan. Mr. Van Tulken opened the program by saying, hello, I am Chris Van Tulken and what you are about to hear was recorded just a few minutes before I met up with Michael at the Hay Festival, and what I didn't know was that it would be the last time I ever saw him. Because 2 weeks later, he died on holiday with his wife in Greece. As you are listening to Michael, I want you to reflect on his style. Drilly, witty, modest, humble. This style disguises that he is one of the most important broadcasters of recent decades. Before Michael, doctors in white coats told you how to live in their ivory towers. Michael's genius was to make himself the patient and the guinea pig that is utterly relatable. We will never forget him infecting himself with a tapeworm or having a camera put up his back package, all for our benefit. And he's the reason so many programs on radio and TV have adopted this style. He's the reason I've adopted this style. Off camera, and off mic, he was the same. Humble, kind, and above all generous. And that generosity set the tone in the BBC science unit in the way that meant everyone who worked they became friends and collaborators rave.